I know that there's some familiar faces in the call and some new faces, which is great. I'm Mark Thompson. I'm Microsoft 365 Adoption Specialist with the Inform team. Instead of me talking about you, Archie, why don't you tell people about yourself?
Hello, everyone. Great to meet you all. I'm Archie Clark. I'm an AI change manager. And a massive part of my role is emotional intelligence, making sure that we are delivering messages and change messages in an emotionally intelligent way. But looking forward to
Very,
chatting to you all today.
very good. Okay, folks, why don't we see what we're going to be talking about? So we're talking about like the human side of use of AI and Copilot, um, empathy, emotional intelligence. I'm not going to read out the agenda because we're going to get to it. But I think, Archie, shall we just get straight into it?
Absolutely.
What,
Let's do
what we've
this.
got, what we've got, folks, is we're going to work out the best way to cover the topics, and rather someone just reading out slides and then it's just we're going to just start. I'm going to ask some questions and Archie's going to go through them at the end of each little section. Then we'll see whether we've got any questions or observations because it's quite an interesting topic, this, isn't it? Okay, Archie, why do we talk to AI tools like they are people, even when we know that they're not?
So, Mark, that's a very good question. So, I think as humans, we're hardwired to make sense of the world by drawing on what we know. And what we know best is, of course, ourselves. So when we interact with something non-human, it could be a teddy bear, it could be a tool, it could be a machine, or even a beach ball, as you can see in the top right, we naturally start to project human traits onto it. And this is known as anthropomorphism. So, as I've already mentioned, a great example that I'm sure we all know is Wilson from the film Castaway. If anyone hasn't seen it, Tom Hanks' character is on a deserted island and he ends up forming an emotional bond with a volleyball. It becomes his best friend, even though he can't talk. And he confides in it and even argues with it at some points as well. So that's not actually that different from how we treat AI tools like Copilot, especially when they speak back to us in fluent natural language. And we often find ourselves saying things like, Copilot helped me write that, or it doesn't get what I'm trying to say, as if it
Mm.
has awareness or intent. But let's just be really clear, it doesn't have awareness or intent. Copilot processes text and patterns. It's not about interpreting meaning or emotion the way that we do as humans. And I think that's where the risk creeps in, because if we start assuming that Copilot understands us emotionally or contextually, we can start to overtrust its outputs. And I think recognizing this tendency to humanize is the first step in using AI more responsibly.
Yeah, that's interesting, Archie. I'm interested what other people think as well. Um, thinking about not AI, just AI at work, but at home, like you can tell most of the models how you want to be spoken to. You can get it to be informal, light-hearted, what to call you, the way to talk to you, and I think it's going to be we're going to see more and more of this, aren't we? It's just those blurred boundaries, and I think periodically we just need to have a check and just clarify them. Anyone else got any thoughts on this topic? I know that it was an interesting announcement from OpenAI yesterday. I'm not going to say it on this call because it'll work, but it's going to start allowing a new type of content and a new type of interactions with people, um, which really blurs and goes into to the boundaries of relationship type stuff. But folks, anyone got any thoughts or comments on that? Just any observations? Do you agree with what Archie said? You disagree? Anybody else really struggling to say that word? How'd you say it, Archie? Say it.
Anthropomorphism.
I can't, generally speaking, right, I can say words, but I struggle with that one. Jenny.
Yeah, I think also Copilot and indeed most of the chat bot functions, they're designed to make us anthropomorphize them.
Mm.
Indeed, in the very first prompting session that I attended as part of a Copilot Voyagers group, we were specifically told, be polite to it.
Hmm.
And all the time, I'm kind of thinking, there's always been this kind of fear that, the robots would take over, and that's terrible because they're not human. And actually, it's almost as if they've been designed to be almost too human, and actually, oh God, this is another person I have to be polite to. I thought this was going to be more efficient. I thought this was going to be the place where I could dispense with the small talk.
Yeah,
And actually, no, actually, you have to be polite to it. So I think actually they're designed to encourage us to anthropomorphize them, and I completely agree. That does make you trust them too much.
yeah. It's interesting, Jenny, and I wonder whether I don't know this, but I suspect that all these mega tech companies, they know that the more people do this, more people do this word that you and Archie can say, the more likely you are to use
Anthropomorphize.
their
Yeah.
tool. Yeah, the more likely you are to use their tool, right? So it's almost in
And
their
trust it.
interest to get it to do that and to trust them. And it's
Mm.
interesting, Jenny, you talk about the topic of AI is taking over control. Do you know what's probably a bigger concern is that they don't take over control. We give it to them.
Well, yes. Yeah.
It's almost more
But
likely,
that's how
right?
the fear gets expressed. It gets
Yeah,
expressed
yeah,
Mm.
as,
yeah.
oh
Of
no,
course,
they're
Jenny.
so robotic, they're not human. And actually,
Yeah.
I think they've been made to look more human than
Hmm.
necessary.
Yeah. Let's have a look at the comments. So Laura's strong. So Laura knows what I'm talking about. I'm not saying it on a work call because this will go on YouTube. Laura knows what I'm talking about. Okay, folks. Yeah. So so I don't say please. I generally, unless I do it by accident, I deliberately try not to because I always think it's something else for it to process. And if you have a billion people using AI and everyone's saying please and thank you, that's a billion bits of extra data it has to process and learn to ignore. And like the processing, the electricity, the heat, everything else. I don't know. Okay, Archie.
Yes.
No one
Yes,
else
Mark.
seems to. I'm just saying no one else seems to have come off mute. So I think we're going to move along. Last chance.
Sounds good.
All right. So okay, that brings us on really nicely actually. So if AI tools don't feel anything, what happens when we use them during emotionally charged moments at work when we have them?
So this is actually a really important question because, again, whilst AI tools like Copilot are emotionless, we, of course, as humans, are not. And we all experience tension, both in the workplace and at home. We experience tension, stress, pressure. It could be a tight deadline. It could be a last minute meeting. It could be that you're just having a bad day. And of course, Copilot doesn't know any of that. It doesn't have that context. It doesn't know that you're frustrated or upset. It just sees your prompt and it responds accordingly. And this is where emotional intelligence comes in, because emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage emotions, both in ourselves and others. And when we use AI during moments of stress, our emotional intelligence helps bridge the gap between what the tool provides, what the tool delivers, and what the moment actually needs. So it's not that we should avoid using Copilot in emotional situations, but I think we just need to stay conscious that we're the ones who need to bring the empathy, bring the nuance, and bring the awareness to its output, because Copilot won't do that for us. So I guess put simply, emotional intelligence is the way, it's what makes us effective Copilot users, not the other way around.
It's interesting, actually. I mean, and the example I'm going to give today now kind of like appeared literally this morning, although it's been running on for a little while. Some of our colleagues aren't so different to this. So my wife is a social worker, and there was something that happened maybe 7 or 10 days ago, something like that. And her manager was off. So the senior person, the senior practitioner in the team, my wife reported it to this person, and the person said, "You need to do this, this, this. Report it to them, and do this, this, and this." And then that piece of work was done. My wife still lost sleep over it. It's very, very, very stressful situation. My wife's manager came back yesterday. Then she updated the manager. Here's everything that happened, and the manager had a very different response. The response was, "Oh, it looks like we've done everything we need to do. Okay, so I hope you didn't worry about these things happen. I hope you didn't worry about it too much. Here's what happened in the past. Actually, it's going to be fine." Right. So actually, the results, and she felt so much better. The result was very different. So, and I know that I think actually we have colleagues like this. This is the very kind of zeros and ones type colleague that we've got with very little or no emotional intelligence. And I think we just need to get used to this idea that it is what it is. Folks, anyone got any observations about this topic, about emotional intelligence and the role? And you know, do you let me ask you this: do you think you prompt better? So Jenny was saying that they use please and thank you. Tina was saying please and thank you. Do you think your prompting will be better or worse when you're emotionally charged or stressed? If you're tempted to come off mute, now would be a good time.
Probably worse.
Pretty worse.
Definitely worse.
Maybe. Yeah, so yeah, I'm guessing. So just think about the way you speak to your family and friends. You try not to do this behaviour, right? But I'm probably at my worst when I'm really stressed or there's all sorts going on, and I don't get the best results from my family and friends when I'm like that. And I guess that AI is going to be similar, right? Or are you more direct? Are you sharper? I think you said actually that you consider you actually wonder, is it the other way around? Because you're more direct, you're shorter with it. You know, there's no fluff. You're very straight to the point. Would that be better? I don't know. Be interesting.
I think it'd
It's
be worth
still,
us trying that, definitely.
yeah, because although and also though, is it going to start mimicking this type of stuff? We've got Google speakers at home, and sometimes you don't get the response you want. You lightheartedly give it some negative feedback, and it'll just say that's not very nice. So I think Jenny's right. I think it's going to mimic this type of behaviour more and more, and we need to be careful about the difference between machines mimicking it. And I know that some humans can't manage emotional intelligence. That big part of your brain, it develops in the first few years of your life, and if you miss that, you don't get it. But those people can mimic that, and they can be convincing. Maybe AI would end up the same way. Anyway, that's enough about my view of the universe, about life and all that sort of stuff. Archie, can a tool that doesn't understand tone or empathy truly be called a collaborator?
So that's a very good question, Mark. And I think this is where we start to untangle what collaboration with AI actually is, and I guess more importantly, what it's not. So on the surface, Copilot is like a really capable teammate. What Microsoft often describe it as is a very clever intern, very capable intern that's available on your desktop or your laptop computer. So it can summarize meeting notes, it can generate drafts of documents, it can help organize your thinking. But again, collaboration isn't just about the doing of tasks, it's about that shared understanding, that emotional context, and that interpersonal nuance as well. And I think that's where sometimes Copilot, not just Copilot, all AI at the moment, actually falls short because it can't read the room. It doesn't know if the conversation you're having is sensitive, emotionally loaded. It doesn't know any of that sort of stuff. So again, it produces a response, but it won't know if it's kind, if it's likely to escalate conflict, if it's likely to upset someone. So whilst Copilot can be useful, we're still the ones who are responsible for knowing what's appropriate, fair, and empathetic. And I think this is something that we recommend in all the training that we do, is don't 100% trust the outputs of AI. We need to make sure that we are checking the outputs. We're checking it from an emotional intelligence lens, especially, just to make sure that what we are sending colleagues and sending people and producing isn't necessarily going to upset them, and it is going to come across in the correct way.
Sorry to interject. Sorry, this is I just find this really interesting because I've been this whole EQ with AI. I think we're underestimating the level at which it could get quite dangerous or very human-like. I mean, increasingly people are turning to chatbots for therapy or for ad hoc, situations where you don't want to speak to a human, for example. So you just turn to AI because you can be more honest. And sometimes the responses that you get, it produces emojis, and it's also, I guess, depending on how it's been trained, it sometimes responds in different tones, very stereotypical or very on trend with some of the language that it uses. And I've noticed it's become much more intelligent in that space of late. So I'm just thinking, how far can this go? And I just think we don't want to underestimate the level at which this thing can take off. But I think in terms of therapy, it's becoming a very dangerous tool for vulnerable groups, older, younger people, or anyone on any kind of, supposed spectrum. Sorry, but it's a really great conversation.
No, it's a really good point. And I think, again, this is in the training that we provide, is AI is a fantastic tool, but it is just that, it is a tool, and it's reliant on the data that's fed to it. So if it's poor data in, it will be poor data out. So we need to make sure that there are safeguards and that there are processes in place to make sure that if there are conversations like that, potentially they could be sent to the right place rather than just trying to answer those questions. Yeah, I think it's a really good point, Lola.
Similar, I've done exactly that same thing. So I hope no one minds me sharing, but a couple of months ago, I went for like a 4-week period. I was in such a funk and I couldn't get out of it. And honestly, I asked Copilot, I said, here's how I feel, what sort of things I'll do about it. And it was usual suspects, like getting light in the morning, exercise, your food and diet, sleep, all the sort of things like that. So even though I've been using AI for 2.5 years now, maybe longer since OpenAI kind of really burst out, even though I know the risk of it, I still do it because it's so accessible, and it's there in your hand. I use Copilot on my phone all the time at home. Folks, anyone else got any thoughts about this? Anyone else looking at this thinking, you know what, we've got a real problem down the road. We need to be cautious. Think about what Lola said, or is anyone thinking, actually, that's not going to happen, and we don't need to worry about it too much? We don't need to agree, folks. On these calls, we don't need to agree. Just looking at the mute buttons. Before we move on, just one last comment on that. I think you think about the way a therapist would be educated and learned, and like it learns what people respond to and way people react. As AI gets more and more personalized, and it gets to know you, it knows the things that you react to, and it gets what people react to. I wonder whether the suggestions will be more loaded towards. If I reply like this, 75% of people give a positive response or an engaging response. So I'm just going to keep saying that to keep people engaged. I also worry about confirmation bias. If I'm dealing with a situation and my AI wants to please me, and it gives me it, because of all our previous conversations, it knows how it's sort of things that I say and I do, and it tells me what it thinks I want to hear, and I do want to hear it. You kind of do worry about that as well.
It's a very good point, because I know it's, especially with ChatGPT, OpenAI, it's engineered to tell you that you're right. So if you want to use it as a bit of a sparring partner for any ideas, you need to say, please be critical, or please pick apart my ideas, or please challenge them, because otherwise it's going to say, yeah, that's a great idea, Archie. And you'll start believing your own everything.
So let's tell you said to Copilot, my boss has done this, and this. What should I say and do to them? Be careful, because it doesn't have to have the consequences. Okay. So I guess that leads on beautifully as well. When AI tools sound so confident and so fluent, how do we stop ourselves from trusting them too much? Can't be honest, Archie. This sounds a bit like I've had some colleagues in the past that were like this. Some colleagues that were very blah, 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 blah. It turns out they were guessing.
I think it's incredibly easy to overtrust Copilot and AI, especially when it communicates so fluently. So, like you were saying, Mark, we tend to equate fluency with intelligence. So, if something sounds polished or articulate, we assume it must be right. I was reading something quite recently about the English language, little tangent, the difference between our Germanic rooted words and our Latin rooted words. And supposedly, when politicians speak, they use a lot of Latin rooted words, usually longer words, more complicated words, because it makes them sound more intelligent. It's part of human nature where we don't intentionally do it, it's automatically engineered into our brains. And I think, again, AI will pick up on that. It's been trained by us, it knows all this information, even without us necessarily telling it to explicitly do this. So, because it mimics how we speak, sometimes we lower our guard and it actually feels human. So we give it more authority than it deserves. And I think, again, this is where emotional intelligence becomes our safety net, because if we pause before accepting what Copilot gives us, that's actually where we can assess if it's correct or not. So my recommendation, as it says on the slide there, is when you see an output from Copilot, ask yourselves, is this right? Is this respectful? Is this responsible? And it only takes a moment to think through these 3 different questions. But actually, those checks stop us from letting Copilot lead when actually it should be supporting. So again, the guidance here is to use Copilot for speed and structure, but never switch off your human judgment.
Folks, can anyone think of an example? Has anyone experienced or know of an example where someone's trusted AI too much and it hasn't worked out well for them?
So I,
'Cause we,
I
we,
know one. Sorry to jump in very quickly.
right, we're
Is
actually, I'm going to come back to you. I'm going to come back to you. But
okay.
we're going to hear Jake first, and because we all hear different things, right? So we'll come back to
Yes.
that one. That one, Archie. But Jake, what you got?
Yeah, it was one that I was reading yesterday. Actually, it was and the truth of it or not, well, I'll find out when I do a bit more research. But it was actually about legal proceedings. And the story goes, somebody in America tried to use Copilot to create a legal argument, but they ended up doing it so badly, the judge actually fined them for contempt of court for wasting court time.
Wow.
And I know it's much more a logical kind of, they're like there's stories you hear over the last few months of people, Copilot will create case law that doesn't exist, but it's also things like the legal argument. So the judge got so fed up, he actually fined and it was allegedly a lawyer that was trying to do this and sort of shortcut. But yeah, so it's less about the emotional intelligence, but I think that I myself, I did a research piece the other week on, it was about spousal maintenance. I'm doing a project where we're trying to calculate income, and I used the researcher agent, and it created a massive 86-page document, but it did actually have the sources and stuff. So it took me quite a while. I was like impressed at how quick it was. It's probably shortcutted by a couple of weeks, but it did take a lot of reading through and clicking on links and going, actually, yeah, that geographic data about where spousal maintenance is paid sounds accurate. But yeah, you do have to be careful, and it can be quite easy to go, oh, I've done the Copilot meeting notes, just post them. It says at the top, please check for accuracy. You do have to check for accuracy, I guess. Yeah.
You do.
But that's a good point, Jake. I think, and I heard that legal one as well, and another one similar, where the Copilot produced the cases, but the cases didn't exist. But yeah, if anyone hasn't used Researcher, folks, Researcher is a great tool. But make sure you do what Jake did, and you either check it. And interestingly, I'm just looking at where Jake's from. I prepared for one of Jake's colleagues an overview of how to use the Admin Center and the reports to look at Microsoft 365 adoption. And for the first pass, I just got a researcher to do it, because there's no way I'm typing all that out. But I know the topic, so I can scan through it because I know the topic. Or like Jake knows just the topic, but there's some of those little nuances Jake then went off and checked. So you've got to check it. Now, I think there's two levels here. There's the Copilot or the AI user, your role. But what if Archie has done a piece of work using Copilot and Archie's passed that to me? I don't need to trust AI. I need to trust Archie. Let's say that I work with Jake, and I'm working with Jake, and we're doing this piece of work to assess income and means and that type of thing. If then Jake passes that to me, I don't need to trust AI. I need to trust Jake. So I think that's it. That's going to be an emerging thing. The purveyor of the AI content, that's the person you need to check. Is their job to get it right? Is their job to second guess it? No, not second guess it, but to double check everything. Archie, you're going to give an example.
I was, and just to pick up on what you were saying, Jake. So there's a lot of cases. There was one in the UK Supreme Court recently, and I think we're going to see it more and more, because the Pandora's box of AI is opened. The convenience is there. I'm so glad I'm no longer at university or at school, because the temptation to use it for essays would just be unreal. But there was a recent case. I won't name the name of the consulting firm, but a consulting firm produced a report for the Australian government, which, when checked, they found a lot of it was completely made up. So it was a complete hallucination by AI. So anyone who doesn't know what hallucinations are in the AI context, it's where AI doesn't make stuff up necessarily. So it's not intentionally there to mislead you, but it creates stuff that it predicts is likely to be true but isn't actually true. So it ends up just being something that never actually happened. And they're now being fined or being asked to give money back, which the Australian government paid them.
Archie, I wonder how many days, weeks, or months they billed for that AI report. It makes you shudder, doesn't it?
It definitely does. Okay.
As AI tools become more powerful, what do we risk losing, and what must we protect? And also, Archie, I'd throw into this: what are we happy to lose? Because I've got to be honest, right? There are some of my first passive stuff. I'm happy to give that work up just to get the first pass. Or if I've done an instructional video and I want to recreate the step-by-step steps, I get Copilot to put out what the steps are. So as I'm creating the video, I state the steps as I'm doing it, and it just produces it, and they're very good. So there's some things I'm happy to give up, but what do we need to be aware of, Archie?
So I think this is really the heart of today's session, because impressive as the tools like Copilot are, again, we just need to remember that they are still just that. They are tools. And yes, they can enhance our productivity. I know you give some examples there, Mark. They can help sharpen our thinking. They can help accelerate delivery. But again, they don't have the ability to think, and they don't have the ability to care. They don't have that emotional intelligence as we've been talking about today. So they process the patterns, but actually we bring that judgment, the empathy, the creativity, and essentially we need to put humans at the heart of this technology, because AI can't replace what makes us humans. So our ability to understand context, our sensitivity to culture, and of course our emotional and ethical awareness as well. So again, emotional intelligence isn't a soft skill. I think it's important to say that actually it's a really strategic one, and it's becoming ever more important in this increasingly artificially intelligent world, because we're just going to have to use it more and more as we start to use these tools more and more, both in the workplace, but also in our personal lives as well.
I think as you're saying that, actually, what a picture. I have these pictures that just form in my mind when people are talking to me. What a picture is you sitting there, Archie, with your various work tools around you, and Copilot AI is one of them, rather than AI being in the middle. I guess the dystopian fear is you have AI in the middle with people around the AI doing its work, but we have to just focus. What I visualize is you or Jenny or Tina or Sonia sitting there with these tools around them, satelliting around them. Folks, anybody got any thoughts on this? The things that we should preserve. Is there anything that you're happy to lose? That's an easier question. Is there anything you're quite happy to hand over to AI and just, I'm going to offload that piece of work or that activity? Come on, be brave. I know that you're hovering over the mute button. Do it. Come off mute. And I know it's like on these calls, especially when you don't know people. You're tempted to speak, but you don't do it. Come on, don't leave me hanging. What you got, Jenny?
I'll be honest. No, I don't think there's anything that I've completely handed over.
No.
Which I think I'm more reluctant to admit that than to admit that I've passed up the over.
No. Well, there's no. I don't think there's any right or wrong answer, and
no, but it's interesting, isn't it, that we're all feeling like we should have handed things over, and actually we haven't yet found something that we're confident enough. It's okay,
right. And it's okay to not all have the same opinion. I think it's even better. That's what makes these interesting. And for me, the thing I'll have to lose is first draft of stuff. How about you, Jake?
Yeah, I'm just going to agree with Jenny. I don't know whether it's because I'm a control freak, but even simple things like creating a presentation, you do have to go through it. Made one the other day, and it was about 10 slides, but I found towards the end it was just endless repetition with the words moving around.
It was just lose interest. It just got bored.
It was really good, and the presentation was great. It was a high level presentation on the subject, and I did it, but it just meant that you really do have to look at those last 3 slides and go, actually, I'm going to cut that down to 2 and get rid of half of the text on one of them. But it's still, you can't just generate a document and that's one of the most popular sort of Copilot uses we're finding, especially in government. There's a lot of sort of creating documents or summarizing documents, but it's still that. I don't know. Sometimes you get the feeling that some of these CEOs of powerful companies would like to replace their low-level staff with an AI, but what we've all talked about is that there's hallucinations, there's misinformation. If your prompt's not quite right, it's not the right angle. And I think
you still need to know the topic, don't you, Jake?
Promote.
You still need to know it, don't you?
Somebody has to, and I think it's up to us to promote the idea that AI helps humans. Because I was thinking about that Australian case that you mentioned on the last slides, and if that contractor company had spent the first 2 days creating that report and then billed for the next 3 months while they went through the report and actually verified it, they would have done an amazing bit of work. But just wait until the last minute, pressing go on a Word document, sending it off, and then they get fined by the Australian government.
Can you imagine being that person? Because with every company is a person, isn't it? Can you imagine being that person who made that decision? Folks, I'm afraid that our time together is over. It's interesting, this topic. It's not like a technical one. I normally do more technical ones. This is more a conversation with grey areas and opinions, and it's been great, actually. I'm very grateful for you coming along. I'm grateful for Archie or the work that you did into this, and I'm very grateful for the people who came off mute and spoke. But even if you didn't, I'm very grateful that you came along. I appreciate it. We've all got work to do, but it's been great. I really enjoyed it. I hope you did as well. And folks, I hope to see you on another session soon.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks, everybody.
you.
Cheers, folks. Take care.
Bye.
Okay, let's wrap this up.